Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
Over the past several weeks, I have been receiving a number of beings and body types into my experience, although not on the real side as would be the norm, whereas we shift our view from the physical level as afforded through the physical level body form apparatus, we now are at liberty to move our view multi-dimensionally, and where the potential of encountering any body form that operates anywhere within the simulator becomes possible. The equivalent of removing a virtual reality headset, which limits us only to the simulated environment it provides, and these encounters wouldn't be occurring as a physical level experiences either within the limited arena that is the densest passing dream life level, where we still have adorned the virtual reality headset as the analogy, but stemming from my astral projection days, where such out-of-body exploration was my primary thrill-seeking pastime, I determined the best means by which such could be initiated, that of placing the mind and emotions aside, and maintaining this position, so this would serve as the most conducive means of sleep-inducing, of vacating my view from the physical level affording physical body apparatus. But rather than allow this process of switching my view to the real side and multi-dimensionally, I would as though permit myself to transition so far, but then put the brakes on, so to speak, as though assuming an awareness view position bridging between the physical and the real side, as though only partially viewing through the physical level providing physical body form, the equivalent of wearing the virtual reality headset but not having it fully adjusted on one's head, that we are somewhat able to see simultaneously, with the limited environment it provides, that which lies beyond it. This would result in the physical level bedroom being the overall scene, but that features of the real side of other dimensions would be manifesting within it, which I refer to as bleedovers. These features, and indeed, on many occasions, body forms, would be residing in their respective dimensional positions I also would be fully immersed into should I have transitioned fully onto the real side. From their perspective then, they would not have the view of the physical level I am operating from, although some have the ability to manifest fully onto the physical from other dimensional positions, all according to the individual's decision and ability. But ultimately, many interactions and engagings with the body types and the various forms this has taken have occurred in this manner over the years. In more recent years, where I would find the new presentation, DUANE would identify the necessity of not only recognizing the real awareness that we each actually are, but establish a practice of maintaining a position as it, within the nowness of its reality, aside from the consciousness of mind and emotion. And so, with such a practice, invariably, I often find myself occupying this nowness, real awareness position, thought and emotion placed aside, a position best conducive for sleep, but coupled with the rather ingrained discipline of maintaining this position stemming from my astral projection days. Rather automatically will this occur on occasion, and where I find myself occupying the in-between state, as I call it, bridging the real side and the physical, as I resist removing my view fully from the physical level, and where the real side other dimensional bleedovers can be expected to then feature within the physical level environment. But these bleedovers would only be apparent to one assuming such an in-between state view, not for any onlookers who were fully immersed into the physical level apparatus, and thus their view is strictly limited to the physical level it provides, unless the bleedovers choose or have the ability to manifest fully onto the physical. For indeed, I have come to determine that most of the beings and body types that do feature during these between state experiences are oblivious that I am engaging with them in this fashion. From their perspective, interaction is taking place within their other dimensional environment, but some are more aware than others. A number of the body forms encountered this way can realize the nature of the means of my engaging, and indeed can utilize my bridging of the two positions, physical and real side, as a kind of a conduit or a portal by which they can cross over, so to speak, and manifest to whatever extent they are able onto the physical. This is why I had much by way of entity-related physical level manifestation during my astral projection days, as my launching mechanism was this between state position, affording bridges whereby such body forms could utilize and become physical level manifested. For indeed, a number of days ago I had been operating fully on the real side. I had determined a frequency that could in theory open portals on the physical level, a certain musical note, as everything visual and audible are at their base states a certain frequency before being decoded through via the body apparatus into the sounds and simulation we experience, musical notes then included. I would then remove my view to the in-between state as though to awake, but not fully, and would recreate the frequency through my real awareness that the particular musical note represented. This indeed would have the effect of opening a portal, or perhaps enhancing one I was formulating through occupying this between state, and manifesting in my room would be a very dark and ominous presence indeed, a kind of shadow creature. Impressions revealed that this being was very malevolent, and had the ability to recognize the portal made available to it, to utilize it, that it would not simply be a bleed-over feature, but able to potentially manifest on the physical level. The best mechanism of a portal sealing I have found in such instances is the DUANU sound, and as I would begin to sing it, though not verbally, as this would break the in-between state, this would not only repel the creature, but seal the portal and prevent it accessing the physical level. I would remove my view now fully from the in-between state and onto the real side proper, where I was shown how the monstrous beast I had thwarted was a kind of ancient demonic god of a kind, and at a certain stage in human history there were a race of humans who had determined this very frequency that would open portals, allowing this particular self-proclaimed god access to the physical level world, and where they rather worshipped it, made human sacrifices in its honor, and so forth. This wasn't a reptilian life-level god, but of a more ancient variety, the gods that held dominion over the simulator before the reptilian gods became into prominence. I have had many real-side encounters with these beings before. They still exist, though usually more in seclusion, and their general reference would be the ancient ones. On another recent occasion, while in my in-between state, there would be a bleed-over, though a body form, unrealizing as to the portal the bridge created he could utilize, and so he would remain in his respective dimensional position, though featuring in my physical level environment. He would be a very tall, bipedal, wolf-like body form. He would in fact manifest outside my bedroom, though his size allowed that he could be visible through the window that is at the top of my door, as I could see his wolf-like head touching the very ceiling of the landing beyond. A ceiling, or indeed any restriction, as opposed by my physical level environment, would have no bearing on his form. He was operating from his own respective dimension, as I said. He was only featuring on the physical from my perspective view. He seemed of a benign, sincere nature, and unlike the ancient one previously, where impressions revealed interaction with it at that moment wasn't very advisable, it seemed prudent to attempt to engage with this wolf being, as he seemed of a curious countenance. Opportunity then to perhaps afford him the new you and real is references perchance. I would invite him to enter into my more immediate midst, for from his perspective we were both operating in his dimensional position, though maintaining a cautious distance. From my perspective view, he was outside of my room, as the door featured between the distance that separated us, and so effectively he would enter my bedroom if he indeed decided to approach. He would, however, fade from the scene, maybe not comfortable in engaging at that particular moment. On the most recent in-between encounter, a portal would be made manifest but of a far more apparent nature than any I had encountered before, as generally I have the awareness of the portals, but they do not present as anything visually simulated. To my right I always have stationed a heater, keeping my room warm. It was active, and would suddenly spark as though receiving an additional surge of power, and would shut off, as if it had been short-circuited as a result. A door would manifest to my right, representing a portal, but one that was very visually apparent. It would begin to open, and from the other side of it were the sounds of wailing, screaming, as though millions of beings in anguish. How very fascinating, I would ponder. But then a being or other would surge through the portal, the door, and somewhat envelop me. It was an entity or demon of a kind. Ill intention was its general proclivity, though seemed to want to engage for a purpose other than antagonism. Clearly it hailed from a rather dubious dimension, very likely the lower astral. The sounds of pain and anguish on the other side of the door rather would instill the notion of hell with most humans as an established reference, as the entity's point of origin, its creational positioning and body form in reflective accordance to its particular consciousness and life choices up until this moment. Impressions revealed it required in some manner to possess my body form, as entities and demons have this ability to usurp body forms of others and somewhat puppeteer them for their own devices, oftentimes eventually driving out the awareness that the body form actually belongs to, a forced transition in other words. But it was as though this entity was unable to convey its wants, or indeed express itself, absent of possession with the individual it wished to communicate with, as though the possession forged a bond by which communication between the entity and the host was made possible. This I would permit, as impressions revealed its intent was sincere, that like the wolf being, it was more curious. For many beings and body types will witness our activities, our real side escapades, the light of the all-ears we seem to be imbued with, etc., and will be drawn to us to determine what we are about. Very likely a recognition through their real awareness is sparked as to the real purpose, that of recognizing the true reality. This possession, for want of a better expression, would take place, the sense of meshing a consciousness with this entity being, that I now had effectively, momentarily, become as two created consciousnesses intertwined. The entity consciousness was beyond my personal self to comprehend, but regardless, my real awareness was taking care of the particulars, and this possession, consciousness amalgamating, enabled the conveyance of what the entity required, as though two computers linking together, and where data is transferred from one to the other. I'm uncertain what the entity received precisely, but impressions revealed it was for its benefit, awareness speaking, and the sense that others of its kind may well approach me in the same manner, and mesh with me temporarily for this same reason. That this seemed the best mechanism of assisting these particular entities or demons, as according to their developed consciousnesses, this was the only way they could communicate seemingly. They had been the kind of body forms always leaning toward the abrasive, and perhaps communication with their targets had never been required, as they went about their tormenting and possessing of others' activities. But now they were utilizing the body forms they had effected for themselves in the best way they could, in accordance with the self-imposed limitations such body types presented as. For indeed, although my personal self had forgotten, this encounter would have my recollect an experience with such an entity before, many years ago, prior to finding the new presentation during my astral projection days. Only then it had been a possession for the ill-intended purposes of usurping my body form, as I had the same fascinating sense of occupying a dual consciousness, mine and that of the entity. For whatever reason, that ill-intended entity was unable to maintain its meshing with myself, and this bond, this interlacing of consciousnesses, would be released. Perhaps even then the real guides were watching over my activities, realizing I was set to embark on my awareness process this lifetime. For indeed, irrespective of the body type or of the created consciousness that effects it, underlying it all is the real awareness with the same is recognizing imperative. And as we step into a position of embracing the all is, that our real awareness is a part of, we rather take on this same supporting of all awareness drive, that which is the essence of life. We share the new you and real all is pertaining references indiscriminately, regardless of the choices beings have made and how abrasive they had previously been. We rather adopt a mentality and attitude of being open to all body types, allowing our experiences to converge in whatever form and manner they will take, as every interaction is opportunity for the execution of our primary purpose, the sharing of the new you. And besides, we are not resigned to the effects we take on, should they prove to be detrimental, for as it is the idea agreements and in relation to others that manifest our situations, we have but to simply remove the idea agreements, and that which is effecting from them can no longer perpetuate. And ultimately all experience, irrespective of its nature, can serve as a further viewpoint comparisons to recognize the all is from the simulated idea affecting situations in relation to the everything isness.